Okay, video number 3, we're going to finish this out, and we are going to discuss very briefly about how photosynthesis happens. And it actually makes a lot of sense, and it's great. There's a great diagram that came from our old textbook. It ties everything together as far as a circle of life kind of thing. But first thing you'll notice, so here's some leaves. So I do have I got a picture here. Plant cell. Now, plant cells are found in the leaves, of course, of plants. And I'm going to make this a little bigger. Here's a mitochondria. Plants have that too. Golgi apparatus, cell walls. We do not have a cell wall. Human beings, that is. We have cell membranes. We're not crispy. Here's a nucleus, nucleolus, but what we're interested in is this thing called a chloroplast. We do not have those. Chloroplasts contain a pigment called chlorophyll. And I'm going to blow this up. So here's a little bit of plant anatomy. This whole stack of these little circular discs, they're called thylakoids. The whole stack is called a granum. And inside those stacks, and then here's the chloroplast, but inside those stacks are where you find the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is very important. It's actually what stores light energy so that plants can power their functions. I just showed you a chloroplast. All green parts of a plant have chloroplasts, and they carry out photosynthesis. Now, chloroplasts have a green color, light-absorbing pigment called chlorophyll, and it plays its role in energy. I like to do it this way with photosynthesis. It's very simple. Botany is an entire course in biology that biology majors have to take. You cover everything from how bark is made, how does water move up a root system, how do plants reproduce. And I like doing it this way. It's very simple, and you get to do a really cool experiment in your lab that really shows how these work. And if you take one part away, then it's not going to work properly. And like I said, how it's all tied together. So we're going to start here first. These are called now light reactions. There's light dependent reactions. They require light. And they're what are called light independent reactions. I don't have to switch back and forth. It's already here. I am going to switch over here though, because I believe that's the one that I have. Okay. All right. Let's just do this. So, what do plants need? Almost everyone knows this. Well, okay, we're not talking about cacti here, but even they need water. But plants, they require water. So here's the H2O. Oddly enough, and here's the CO2. Remember, these are products of aerobic respiration. That's what we breathe off when we breathe, is water and CO2. So here is H2O coming in this way. And then here is light. So plants require light. If you have anywhere around your house indoors that does not have light penetrating it, you're not going to have any plant growth. There are some plants that can grow in low levels of light. There are some that don't require as much water, but they require both in sufficient amounts. Even here in Texas, where I live is half desert. In July, if you don't water your yard, the weeds and the grass will be yellow. So here are the light reactions. Now, those little stacks, that's a thylakoid, granum. This is inside of a chloroplast that is filled with chlorophyll. So we're going to go this way. Remember NADP plus, the oxidized form. Here is ADP and a phosphate. And this is an energy carrier, and this is actual energy. Well, it could be, potentially. So what plants do, they take the water and the light, and the light and the chlorophyll together, and they load up this phosphate on an ADP to produce ATP, and it also loads up this energy carrier here. Now it's been reduced, now it's carrying electrons, so they can donate those electrons and transfer that energy into what's called the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle is the part that is called the light-independent reactions. This part does not require light. However, it does require carbon dioxide. I forgot. I can just go back up. So, here are the light reactions. Using light from the sun and water molecules, chloroplasts convert energy that is absorbed in chlorophyll from solar light into ATP and an energy carrier, NADPH, in its reduced form. It's carrying electrons. It's going to carry those electrons and transfer those electrons to the next part of the cycle, thereby transferring energy to keep the whole process going. The Calvin cycle, light-independent reactions. Using the products of the light reactions, ATP and NADPH, the Calvin cycle converts carbon dioxide from the atmosphere into glucose, a sugar. And it's a cycle, just like it shows here. Here you get some sugar produced. Plants use that sugar as food to go through cell respiration. And in the process, well, okay, here's the sugar that's produced, but in the process of taking water and light, they produce oxygen. So it's actually a pretty cool cycle, and I like doing it very simple like this. Your experiment you're going to do with an Elodea, plant, some snails. You know, snails are going to produce CO2 and water as a byproduct of cell respiration. Plants produce oxygen and sugar as a byproduct, and they use H2O and CO2 to power their functions. And I said cell respiration, but yeah, plants can use that sugar now to break it down for energy. So they can produce their own food. They're called an autotroph. Heterotrophs are organisms that have to feed on other organisms for their source of carbon. And here's carbon. Now, I gave you in a PowerPoint, here's slightly different diagram, still the same idea. And my computer's like, nope, I don't want to. Okay. Here are the light-independent reactions, which is the Calvin cycle. Here would be the light-dependent reactions. So here's light being absorbed by chlorophyll. Here's H2O. So you cleave off the hydrogens. You leave the oxygen. Those hydrogens are transferred to this NADP plus, the oxidized form, to make NADPH and ATP. And then the energy here and the electrons being donated, you can see the Calvin cycle. It takes carbon dioxide and produces sugar. And it even says it right there. Cell respiration, cellulose, starch, and other organic compounds. Pretty cool. It's the next picture that is really cool. It really sums this up. Here's 6 carbon dioxide molecules, 6 water, and here's some light energy. And it says photosynthesis. Synthesis is a process where you take smaller units and you link them together to make a larger unit. Here are the 6 carbons. They get cleaved off, and then you have here 6 hydrogens, 6 times 2 would be 12 hydrogens and 6 oxygens. You take these 6 carbons, you stick it onto this part here. Here's the 6 carbons. 6 times 2, there's the 12 hydrogens. And 6 times 0, there's the 6 oxygens. And that's the molecular compound for glucose. And then the carbons you took off here, you end up with 6 oxygens. That's how they produce oxygen. That's a good diagram. This is a great one. All right, see that? In fact, I think I liked it so much I put it in here twice. I did. Here's energy from the sun. Sunlight energy enters the ecosystem. So here are the granum, stacks of thylakoid with chlorophyll inside of a chloroplast. So green tree. Absorbs light. Remember, plants produce glucose and oxygen. Well, organisms like us, microbes, animals, they take glucose and oxygen to power cell respiration, which byproducts are water and carbon dioxide, which plants then use to produce glucose and oxygen. So it really is a circle of life. And like it says there, ATP drives all the cellular work, and then it says heat exiting the ecosystem. Like I said, there's this idea of what is called entropy. And look over these terms. The very last thing here, kinetic energy is involved with everything, but that idea of entropy is, it says highly ordered, more disordered. Entropy refers to the amount of disorder within a system. And you have heat that is lost in the process of converting energy, just like it says here. These terms, kinetic energy is energy of motion. This is stored energy, which is a big part of converting doing cell respiration, of keeping the thing going and breaking up ATP and releasing energy. Catabolism is a process of breaking down large molecules, which was the, I don't want to make you dizzy, this diagram that I kept loving. See, food is being catabolized. It's getting broken down into smaller pieces. Anabolism is building larger molecules into smaller ones. That's why you hear the term anabolic steroids, getting bigger. An autotroph is an organism that can produce its own food. Heterotrophs have to feed on other organisms to get a source of carbon. And then there's entropy. Those are all related to what we were talking about. All right, guys, that is it. I hope these help. And if you'll see the other videos for the lab and some of the exercises, I hope these help. Thanks for listening.